Okay, so the purpose of this video is to show you how to um, deal with the formulas whenever you need to expand this sheet. So I think what happened is this sheet, maybe fairly recently, only went down to row 223, and you now have more than 223 transactions or 222 transactions, and so I'm guessing you expanded the sheet to go down to the 523, which is good. So if there's ever a situation where like you get to the bottom of the sheet, and that goes for any of these sheets, if you get to the bottom and you need more rows, and there are formulas in some of the columns, there's a really quick and easy way to make sure that those formulas go the whole way down the column to the rows that you expanded into. So that's what I'm going to show you in case you need that in the future for the sales input sheet or for any of the sheets that you have in Business Tracker. So let's see. First off, I will email you the rows or the columns up here. I'll tell you which letter columns have formulas in them, so you know which ones you need to make sure the formulas go the whole way down the column. I'll go through and show you how to do one or two of these columns, and then you can do the rest whenever you have time. But you shouldn't have to manually input stuff all the time. And you may actually already know how to do this, but I'm going to do it anyways in case you don't, so that you can see how quick and easy it can be. So let's see. Okay, the first column in the sheet that has a formula in it, you may not even know it, is column U. So if you look, and it's helpful to keep in mind that the original sheet only went down to 223, so that's the last row that would have the original formulas in it, and then the rows below it would be the expanded rows. So if I look at that last cell in column U, so U223, I can tell that there's a formula for this column because when I look up here, it starts with an equal sign. If you look at the cells below it for the added transactions, and you look up at the top, notice there's no more formula. So that formula has not been included below the original sheet. So we should make sure that happens. And you can see that most of these are zeros, but it's possible that some of these down here shouldn't be. And so let me show you what this formula means, because it's another somewhat complicated formula. Here's the formula for the column. And it's kind of like an if-then calculation. So, and you can see it starts with the word if. So what this means, and again, each color represents kind of a different piece of information. So this is saying for this cell right here, it's calculated based on this statement. It says this means if, and then we look at the orange, M223. So if I look at column M is lead source. So if the lead source is Gary Muccio referral, so that's the green part. So if it's specifically that lead source, then, the comma means then, that cell down here should be 50% or 0.5, which is the same thing as 50% in decimal form. Otherwise, and that's what the second comma is, otherwise it should be 0. So again, let me restate that kind of all together. If, and then the orange, the lead source is Gary Muccio referral, then the percentage should be 50 here. Otherwise, if it's any other, meaning if it's any other lead source, then it should be 0. And the purpose of this column is to input the referral percentage that Gary Muccio receives on the transaction since he referred the customer. So, like, if I look up here at this transaction, it's got the same formula here. If I look over here, the lead source is Gary Muccio referral. Therefore, the percentage was automatically came up as 50%. If I look at this one, this is not a Gary Muccio referral. So it's going to be 0. He doesn't receive a 50% split. So it automatically comes up as 0. If I go down here to this transaction here, even though it doesn't exist, if I just select if the lead source for the next transaction is Gary Muccio referral, you will notice where am I? Why is it not? Hang on a second. I don't know why that's not changed. Oh, it's because the formula's not there. Never mind. So we have to make sure that that formula gets copied and pasted down this whole column, because if not, these aren't going to necessarily populate as 50%. So the person entering in has to always remember to put it in as 50%. And that does affect other columns. For example, over here, this column right here, Gary Muccio cost of sale, that column is calculated based on that 50% being over here in column U. So you have to make sure that when there is a formula, that you make sure that that formula goes the whole way down the column. Otherwise, it might affect other calculations that are based on whatever the other column has in it. So again, I can see row 223 has the equal sign. This one does not. So I need to make sure that this formula gets copied down. And you can copy and paste the formula down the column just like we copy and pasted the formula across a row in the previous video to make it nice and quick. As long as all the numbers in this column are calculated the same way, you can copy and paste. So I'm going to copy this formula and I'm going to select the entire column below it. So I'm going to click on the cell below it and I'm going to go the whole way down the column. And I'm going to make sure I'm in the right column. I'm column U. I'm going to hit Shift on my keyboard and click at the same time, and that should highlight all of the cells below that need the formula. And then I'm going to right click and paste. And notice what happens to some of these numbers up here when I paste. So these two right here went from zeros to 50% because they were Gary Muccio referrals. So if that formula if we hadn't changed that formula, these would not have automatically populated as 50%. And if I go over here to the orange columns where the pay is, that needs to be copied down, so we can't see it yet. Never mind. So if this formula here, I'm just going to quick copy and paste this to show you. So notice these right here. This tells Ashley how much Gary Muccio should get paid for those transactions. And it's based on this column having either 50% or 0%, and that's based on whether it is a Gary Muccio referral lead source or not. So there are some columns that probably don't initially appear to be formulas, but they are. So I'll make sure that I tell you all of the letter columns that have formulas in them, and you can go through and do this copy and paste process. It really shouldn't take you too long. You just have to make sure you do it for all the correct columns. So I'll do one more just to show you. So column X, this is actually a formula column, but there's a little bit of an issue with it right now, and it depends on how you want this set up. So column X, if I look at, let's look at one that has a name in it. Oh no, I can't do that. Let's look at the 223. So X223 is the last row that we know was in the original sheet before it was expanded. If you look up here, it's a formula, and it says equals F223. So F, that's this column, 223. So what it's saying is, in this cell right here, it's supposed to automatically pull whatever is in F223. So if I go to F223 and I change this, let's say Dave was the ISA, I change it to Dave, what happens is his name is automatically populated over here for the ISA column. So the issue, and it's not really an issue, the issue is, or the question is, how do you want this ISA entered? Because there is some redundancy here. This column is pretty much the same thing as this column. It's just this has a drop-down menu and this one has a formula. So, you know, it looks like you haven't been using this column all along, which is fine. You don't have to. You could totally delete this column and just use this column to enter in the ISA. So you just have to make a decision about that, I think. Do you just want to eliminate this column, or do you want Karen to select the ISA here, and you don't even have to worry about the green column, and there's another column that has it automatically populate also. It's over here. It's for the payment. And so Ashley knows who is receiving whatever payment is here. So this column also, notice how Dave automatically populated over there. So it's just allows Ashley to see here in this view who it is that's receiving the ISA split. So I'm sure Dave will say that that decision is up to you. Whether you keep this column or not, you can delete it, and you can just have Karen, we could do the drop-down menu over here, and she can use the drop-down menu to enter in the name, and we can do a formula over here so that that name automatically populates here from the green column. Or you can keep the black column and just have her enter the ISA over here and not worry about her entering it in the green or the orange columns. So it's up to you. If you decide to have her enter it into the black column, then we can just keep the formula that's here, in which case I'm going to go copy that formula, and I'm going to paste it the whole way down. X, shift, and click, and right click, and paste. So even the whole way down here where there's nothing in the column, there's still a formula for that cell. You can see it up here. So you can keep, yeah, so let me summarize this because I feel like I'm going in circles. So if you decide to have Karen enter in the ISA over here, you don't need to this column is done. It'll automatically populate. Although you might want to go back and like for here for Drew, you can go back over here and put Drew. Because the orange column over here, where are you? Why doesn't that have a formula in it? That's weird. Hold on. This yellow column here automatically populates. It has the same exact formula. Whatever you change here in this black column, it will change here. So like, let me go back. Sorry, this is confusing. So like here, Andrew is the ISA. If I change this to Andrew, it will automatically change over here to Andrew and his payment. So like this one, if I go back, who's the ISA for that one? It's Andrew again. So I put in Andrew here, and it should, yeah, it automatically tells me here that it's Andrew. So you might have to go through, if you decide to keep the black, go through all the rest of these and make sure that you enter, it might just be this one left. Let me just change this because I don't think, oh no, there is one up here. Yes, you can go to this yellow and orange column here for ISA, and anything that has an amount but it doesn't have a person, you can go back here and change this to whoever the ISA is, and it should automatically populate that. Yeah. So what was I going to say? Yeah, if you decide to keep this, that's fine. Column X, the formula has already been corrected and changed and expanded the whole way down the column. You know, you will have to, the column AT is one of the columns that needs to be copy and pasted down so that the whole way. It's good through 223, row 223, but it needs to be copy and pasted down to 523. So that's how you copy and paste formulas down a column. I'll do one more. The next one is AF. So if I go across to AF and I go down to 223, which is this one, I think you did do this. You may have already copy and pasted this for these 4 transactions, but you can do it the whole way down the column, even if there's no transaction there. That way you don't have to keep manually doing it. So I go to 223, I right click, copy, and select all the cells below it, shift, click, right click, paste. And you're going to see this pop up because, and you know, there's no number there because there's no transaction. But when you go back up, as you get more transactions, this will automatically be calculated. So it's just a quick find that row 223, copy the formula, highlight the whole column below it, and paste it, and you should be good to do that. I'll send you all the columns that need to be changed. If you have any questions, let me know.